Hello, everyone. I am Bree Carroll, and it is such an honor to be here talking with you at the Pillar Deployment Retreat. I'm going to share a little bit of my insight and some things that has really helped me during deployment season, and I hope that it benefits you as well. Well, what I'll be sharing is all about the power of relationships. So, a little bit about me. I am the owner of Bree Carroll Events. I'm the host of Hearts and Stripes podcast, and I'm the 2020-2021 Armed Forces Insurance Air Force Spouse of the Year. I'm a mom of 3 little people who are high energy. I'm an Air Force spouse, and I am a GS employee, so I still work a full-time job. Now, you may be wondering, like, how do I balance all these things when I'm in the middle of a deployment? This is why I'm sharing all about the power of relationships. I've learned how to leverage relationships in a way that benefits me and supports me during my deployment season. So let's kick things off by breaking down 3 different relationships that we'll be thinking about as we talk about the power of relationships. Number 1, we have to look out for number 1. And who is number 1? Of course, that's you. That's me. You have to get involved and be thinking about yourself. The relationship with yourself is number 1. And of course, we have to think about number 2 because it takes 2 to make a thing go right. That's right. All about marriage. And you guys know I'm all about building and strengthening military marriages. So that'll be the second relationship that we're thinking about, your marriage relationship. And number 3, everyone else. And I say that with all the love in the world. That's kids, that's family, that may be coworkers, friends, just other people. They fit in that 3rd category. So we have the first one, we're looking out for number 1, that is ourself. Number 2, we're thinking about our marriage relationship. And number 3, we're thinking about everyone else. Now, all of these relationships play a part in the power of relationships. And we all have to think about the power that we hold in each of these categories. For example, when we're looking out for number 1, people like to throw around the word self-care, but it's more than just going to get our nails done, right? Self-care may be physical fitness. It may be your mindset. What are you saying about yourself, and how is the relationship with yourself during deployment season? It's really important to think about the influence and the power that you have over yourself even during a deployment season. Are you affirming some of the things that are going on in your life, or are you talking down to yourself? Are you thinking that you're a screw up? Are you being negative and having bad self-talk? Well, that is a relationship that I would encourage you to work on, because your biggest critic a lot of times during a deployment season is yourself. You're sometimes in isolation. You may be going through a deployment by yourself if you don't have little ones, or you just may be in a new location and a deployment kind of sprung up. The relationship that you have with yourself is huge. And I would encourage you to be mindful about the power of your mindset towards yourself. That's number 1. The second one, your marriage. So your relationship with your spouse is very big when we're talking about the power relationship during deployment season. Deployments actually tend to be a great opportunity to build the marriage relationship. And I know it may not seem that way, but think about it. That time of separation actually makes the heart grow fonder. You can build up some excitement and some anticipation to reconnect when the deployment is over. Also, you get to think outside the box of different ways that you can connect and communicate, and makes you a little more intentional about working on your relationship and staying connected with your significant other. So make sure that you're leveraging that power of relationship when it comes to the 2 of you. Give encouraging words. Tell them that you miss them. Make sure that that communication is shared both ways, and that you're open about how you're feeling and how you're doing during the deployment season. It's really important to think about the power that you have of brightening up their day, even when you're in constant communication with them, or maybe not so frequent communication, right? So now let's talk about that 3rd group and the power of the others, right? The power of the others may be good or bad. And that is what we really need to think about. And we'll break that down in just a second. But everyone else, what role do these other people play? Your children, maybe you're supporting them, but maybe your friends and family may be a support to you, or even your children may be a comfort to you. So think about the power of relationships and how much power and authority you might want to give to these other groups of people during your deployment season. So let's start breaking things down a little bit more. And I love to do this with my CARE method. It's very simple. It's CARE, careful consideration, assess the foundation. We are going to reinforce the structure, and we will engage and trust. So let's start with the first one. And for each of these, I'm going to ask you some questions to kind of get you to think. But before I ask you those questions, and we're talking about the power of relationships, let's think of it like, I don't know, your phone. When we think about power when it comes to your phone, we're thinking about the charge, right? Is something charging it up, or is something draining the battery? That is what we're going to be thinking about when we're talking about the power of relationships. So the first one, careful consideration. Does this relationship charge you up? Does it add to that power supply, or is it depleting it? And this is something for all three of those categories. With yourself, are your words and the things that you're saying about yourself building you up or putting yourself down? Is it adding or is it depleting? When it comes to your relationship with your spouse, is that a positive relationship or a negative relationship? When we think about the power in these relationships, we have the authority and the ability to do something about it. And maybe even if it's taking a break and realizing that you maybe need to communicate in different ways, or get some you time so that you can clear your head before you start and engage with a conversation with your spouse. Another one is with your friends group. Are your friends adding to you, or are they depleting you? Do you feel drained after you get off the phone with them, right? So let's move on to the next one, assessing the foundation. So what's the root of these relationships, right? Are they mutually beneficial? Now, this one is really big to think about when you're talking about that third category with others. Is it mutually beneficial during your deployment countdown to continue to engage in the same way? Sometimes one person may be benefiting more than another, and that may not be a healthy situation for you to continue to be in. So maybe for the deployment time frame, you might want to be wise about how you divide your time for your own peace of mind, right? So let's go to reinforcing the structure. Now, this one I love because it's all about a framework. And the question that you want to ask yourself here is, can you build this relationship, or do you need to set a boundary? So it's either a building or a boundary. Thinking on all three of these, the first one, what can you do to build yourself up? What boundaries maybe do you need to do? Maybe you need to limit your screen time or something like that. What builds you up in your marriage? What fun things and spicy things can you add during the deployment season? And with friends and family, can you connect more, or do you need to set some healthy boundaries so that they're not inundating you with questions and wanting information about the deployment that you're not able to give, or you're not comfortable giving? Building up in boundaries is all what we're talking about when it comes to reinforcing that structure. So the last one, which is one of my favorites, engaging and trusting. And this one, I want you to hear me. This one is really big for number one, yourself. Accept the help. That's what is in engage and trust. We need to accept help. We need to realize when we do need help, right? And then the second one is listen to yourself. Listening to yourself is huge. You know when you are drained and that battery is low and you need to be filled back up. So be sure to utilize these tips. Careful consideration, assess the foundation, reinforce the structure, and engage in trust. This is an awesome way for you to make sure that you are leveraging the power of relationships. I hope that this was very helpful for you. And I want to share one last quote before I leave. Alice Walker, she gave this awesome quote, which I think we all need to think about, and how we influence one another and the power of relationships. And the quote goes like this: The most common way people give up their power is by thinking that they don't have any. I encourage you to think highly of yourself. Think of yourself as an influencer. A smile, a phone call, and all of those things really make a difference for someone else who's going through a deployment, maybe with you, but also think about the value that it could add to you. Utilize those relationships and those friendships and those people who are there for you during your deployment countdown. Thanks, guys. I hope this really benefited you as you count things down during your deployment. Stay tuned. There's some amazing speakers going on, and I'm so grateful to be able to share with you. I'll chat with you soon. Bye.